Did you see the something special for something special this week involving Weezy? Nah, didn't. I also didn't see his face reveal because you know, I don't really care what he looks like. I'm sure he looks like some normal guy. Like, why would I give a shit? My opinion is not gonna change because I suddenly know that he's white or Asian or something. Texan, American, Canadian, what the fuck do I know? So a bad MvM opinion is kinda a wild thing. You could have the opinion of Weezy is bad. That could be a bad MvM opinion, right? But yeah.
About a month ago, I asked you guys to drop me your most unpopular and or controversial MvM opinions. And oh boy, we got a lot to work with. So I figured we all walk through this cornfield of contrarianism together. Because of course, what good are internet comment sections for besides lording your superior intellect to strangers halfway across the globe? Now, despite the title of this video, no, not every take here is gonna be one I disagree with. But lock yourself in a room with a hodgepodge of MvM players, and there's a good chance at least one corner will push back. Are they right? Are they wrong? Well, that'll be on you to figure out. But at least you'll know where I stand now, and likely forever into the future. Because opinions are like assholes, I refuse to wipe mine. We got like 3 dozen of these to comb through, so let's get started. But first, do you have ears? Well,
Okay, I care about your sponsors.
During the video, now onto your bad opinions.
He might be handsome.
Alright, starting with arguably the most mind-bogglingly common take I see floating around. Boot camp is a good alternative to Man Up, and people who don't want to play it for the sole reason of lack of items need to reevaluate what they like about the game.
Like a good alternative to Man Up? I mean, depends on what you define as good, right? To begin with.
Okay, that last part is definitely true. People love to claim they enjoy Man vs. Machine as a game mode in and of itself, but in actuality, they're just a slave to an extrinsic reward structure.
A questionable take on its own, right? You don't actually enjoy playing MvM, you just do it for the gambling. And I would heavily disagree with that opinion alone, because community MvM exists and the only reward you get there is a fucking badge that I never wear, ever. It just takes up space in my inventory and that's it. Okay, like where's the reward there? You play it because you have a different crowd of people you play with, different missions, right? Fresh stuff, maybe more interesting stuff, right? More wild stuff and also worse stuff. But that's just a bubble take for just Man Up community, maybe.
I wouldn't even call that a bad thing. I only play Scream Fortress maps for the contracts and only have pastime checks so I can farm the achievement for it. If people want to look at MvM loot the same way, that isn't anyone's problem until you try to make it one. I think getting cool rewards at the end just makes the game mode more fun, and there's no shame in admitting that.
Cool rewards at the end, right? What are the cool rewards in MvM? Man Up mode specifically? Australians, okay. But you don't get a cool reward every time you play, right? Most of the time, you probably get just fucking hot garbage that's worth like 50 cents or something. So is that really the incentive for you to play the game? Is that the thing that makes you enjoy it, right? Is it really the thing that pushes you to play MvM? Just 90% trash? I could go outside and look into my garbage can and probably find something of equal value in there. Doesn't mean I have to. I enjoy it.
Boot camp on
10th silver medigun. Yeah.
the other hand is just fucking awful. I have no idea how anyone defends it. Everyone loves to bitch and moan about Man Up having a rigid meta and a higher density of squawking teammates, but spend more than 5 minutes in boot camp and you'll quickly realize why the pendulum shifted so hard. Almost every fucking game is a wave 1 shit show followed by a mass rage quit because there's zero expectation of any kind of team synergy. It doesn't matter if there's a higher proportion of teammates that are cool with wacky loadouts if you can't use them beyond 15% of the mission. Now, on lower difficulties, this problem pretty much goes away. Shitty, uncommunicative teams will usually make it far regardless.
So the problem with bootcamp is it's intended for newer players, right? But you have the difficulties, still available to everyone right off the bat. So you find people that have no clue about MvM just all pooled together in a bootcamp match, right? Because it's free and they might as well try it. And that probably results in a lot of bootcamp games being of questionable nature, right? A lot of people in there just don't know what they're doing, which is normal for new players, right? So I don't know where you expect there to be some cooperation or understanding of what's going on. But I wouldn't disagree with the take that bootcamp is a good place to start out as, because you don't have to spend money, first of all, to get into it. You face less toxicity in there, absolutely, that's true, right? Because if you go in man up and you're an absolute dunce, you don't know what's going on, people are going to judge you way harder than a bootcamp, right? So the incentive to go to bootcamp is just to learn the game, right? For maybe to step up into man up and maybe try your luck there if you really want to. I still think it's a good learning experience just to get a feel for it. When it comes to team coordination and like progress in it though, it's kind of bad, right? Because new teams, most of the time they don't get past wave 1, wave 2. There's going to be some people in there to just enjoy bootcamp to begin with, that you can actually tell that they know a little bit more than average Joe Gonzalez 2022, right? And but it is fun in its own way. I used to play a bunch of boot camp, you know, just getting in there, seeing what's going on when I was bored, and I mean, there's no strings attached, right? You could just go look at it, and if you don't like it and you find it shit, just go and do something else, right? I mean, nobody's forcing you to be there, to stay there. And that's probably also why a lot of people just quit, right? They just try it out and they quit. Or they restart maps because they just want to try another class or something. There's a lot of issues there that prevent actual progress, but it's still a good place to start learning compared to just getting straight into mana, where you're probably going to face some people's scrutiny about what you're supposed to know already, especially on more advanced difficulties. Right? If I see someone with like high tools that just see, oh god, there's two people that have not even a single digit on their fucking tool count, and they're just out of there, like, okay.
So in that domain, bootcamp does have a place, but for anything labeled advanced or higher, which are by far the most popular missions in the game, I'd go with man up mode every time. It may be a pick your poison situation, but at least you can drink one of those vials while actually getting to play a full mission. Plus, even if you don't want to pay, you can always leave before the round ends to keep your ticket and effectively play for free. The gas passer...
So yeah, that's something that is still confusing me, right? That so many people just don't realize. All they have to do basically is to just spend $1, right? $1. I'm sure everybody can scrounge together $1 somewhere, or ask like a buddy who has some money or has a ticket lying around to just borrow it, and then you just go into ManUp, you list it for like 10,000 or whatever absurd price on the Steam Community Market, right? And then just play the game. You won't get any loot, you won't see any loot at the end of other people, but you get to enjoy a probably better experience than what you can find in bootcamp if you're really looking for that. So there's no, you don't have to like throw your fucking wallet at it just to enjoy ManUp. Right? You can go in there. There's a lot of repeaters that leave before the wave's over, the last wave, the last robots, and yeah. I don't know why people just don't realize that. Oh man, I got one ticket, I listed for like $500 and then I can just play as much as I like, whenever I like. Which is crazy to me actually. Because you could do that since the inception of the community market.
Relatively speaking, is one of the weaker, if not weakest OP weapon in the game. So
Gas pass will take, right? I always said it before, it's the weakest, or like, I don't remember what I said. It's a bad, overpowered weapon, right? It could be overpowered, but it doesn't make you good. And if you don't know how to use it, it's overpowered, but you're still shit at it. So, in the wrong hands, it's still a trash weapon, despite being overpowered. But if you know how to abuse it and how to use it, it's the most broken shit that we have right next to explosive headshots and tobacco spam and maybe scores in certain situations on actual official man up. Not so much in community missions, the scores doesn't shine as much there. Because it's all about the memorization and you don't get a lot of time in community MvM to set up what you try to do, so Sniper is definitely the most overpowered in that situation there.
So in a vacuum, that's definitely true, but no one should be gauging balance in a vacuum. You always have to take into account the context surrounding a class's base stats and the litany of other tools they have available.
And what do we get out of that? The Pyro is a close range class, so he needs something that nukes stuff from across the map. The Medic is not a battle class at all. Why doesn't he get something to nuke everything out of existence? I don't know.
Pyro is given on-demand crits, which only feeds into the gas's charge more often. Whenever a tank's in play, he gets them ad infinitum. The upgrade's always available wave 1, whereas the other weapons need 2 to 3 waves minimum to really get going. It's tied to the class in the game with the cheapest upgrade route, which
Exactly, it's tied to the class with the cheapest upgrade route. So why do you give the class that's already the cheapest to get to its best fucking state an even more broken weapon, right?
allows for more resistance buys and therefore more uptime to chuck gas cans. It just becomes a perpetual loop where gas keeps Pyro alive and lets him farm crits more easily.
Gas does not keep Pyro alive, okay? When gas kills something, everything is dead. Yeah, you might not get killed by the robots because they're gone, but if there's something still alive that you didn't kill with your gas parcel, let's say, I don't know, a giant full crit heavy, what do you do? What do? You can't keep yourself alive with the fodder around the giant, and you're just gonna get mowed down, or you have to back out of the fight. So the gas parcel actually keeping a Pyro alive is just not right. Okay, not at all in that context, right? When context matters so much.
Which generates even more gas, which lets him kill things quickly, which lets him stay alive even longer so you can spam even more gas, which you get by farming even more crits, etc, etc. Now I think you see the problem. Pound for pound, some of the other weapons are better for sure, but every class in the game has a kiloton weighted toolkit, and you always have to factor in how they all weave together. In that realm, gas is obviously very OP and definitely needs a nerf. Okay, we got a
That much is true, right? When Valve introduced it, it was way more overpowered, and then they nerfed it and made it slightly less overpowered, right? Because nobody actually thinks about things on, you know, balancing teams, you know, when we're just changing weapon stats around. I mean, I'm just saying Ambassador versus Diamondback, right? It was not okay to just crit across the map, you know, crit headshot across the map with the Ambassador, but the Diamondback can just, you know, slam 102 damage into you from, you know, another continent, basically. But that's okay, right?
Couple on leaving games here. Displaying tour counts for everyone to see should be removed. It only incentivizes high tours leaving upon seeing a full lobby of low tours, and can even get you kicked simply for being a low tour in a high tour lobby.
That is a bad MvM opinion. Like, displaying tour counts doesn't really matter, because if I don't see a tour count, I can still determine if somebody knows what they're doing. And if they're just a noob, right? If they don't know fully, they're not in there by just positioning, how they behave, you know, how they're doing. There's a scoreboard, for God's sake, we can look at, right? If I see a Pyro who has more support than actual damage, then he's probably not in the, you know, category of knowing what's going on, when he's just there air blasting everything around and just stands there. So this doesn't do anything for anyone. So yeah, and the other way around also works. Like, low tools can also kick high tools when they just, you know, have a bias against them too. Like, oh my god, look, it's this 1000 tour guy, and they always leave on wave 3 if they're not in like wave 5 or wave 6 or something. So I'm not cool with him just joining this late game, so we're just gonna kick him out or some other random bollocks, right? Oh my god, it's a high tour, they're toxic all the time. We should kick them so we have a nicer experience, right? Doesn't actually apply to everyone, right? It's just like low tools. Doesn't mean anything. There's repeaters in the first place, so they don't have a tour count. Doesn't mean they're bad at the game. It's a bad metric to just judge something at.
And also, just because you're a high tour and have people with 1 to 10 tours on your team, that doesn't mean you have the right to leave and make them wait over 30 minutes for another player. Okay.
I don't know how the 30-minute wait time might just be a personal thing, right? Because if you're queuing for 2 cities, you might get someone faster, but it also just might collapse the whole game if there's one guy leaving, somebody else leaves, because it's faster to just re-queue instead of waiting for like 2 minutes when you can find another game in like 30 seconds. I mean, it's still bad practice for people leaving, but we had the whole debacle of just having penalties, and he's also gonna get.
Okay, first of all, you'll never be waiting 30 minutes for another player unless it's 4 AM on a Monday and you're playing oil spill. The coordinator will fetch someone relatively quickly. As for why this is a broader issue with the game mode, you can blame Valve for that. They removed the ability for teammates to inspect each other's upgrades at the beginning of a wave.
I mean, the inspect removal is probably one of the stupidest things they did. And I don't know, I don't think that plays into the reason why people leave as much as he thinks, because nobody's gonna go around and like look at every player. At least I don't think they're gonna look around at every player and what they're upgrading. I think they just primarily are looking for some games with either high tours, more experienced players, late games without certain classes like pyros or other players playing, I don't know, like a 2-tour on Spy or something where they just don't trust them, and that's prompting them to leave. It's my take, but this is still a bad decision on Valve's end.
Which was the main tool veterans used to help new players out. Now trying to help low tour players get a good setup going is like trying to teach a group of monkeys how to code in Python. Valve forced in so many added layers of necessary communication that previously weren't there, and now it's just become much faster to re-queue and find a new team. At the core, humans rely on pattern recognition, and nowadays, high tours have been conditioned to see a full group of new players and immediately dip out of there, because
I mean, not everyone does this, right?
Finishing the mission would either demand carrying the whole team on your back, or doing a whole-ass PowerPoint presentation on how to buy dispenser range. I think the inspect change came from a good-hearted place, but it truly did fracture the player base beyond repair. There have always been people who would tap out at any sign of a low-tour lobby, but now basically everybody does it, and I don't really blame them. In game design, there's a golden rule: incentivize and you shall receive. Don't blame the players following the incentives, blame Valve for incentivizing the wrong behavior. Okay, next. Every tour needs to have drops equal to every other tour. So Big Rock, for example, would have rewards as good as 2 cities, but it doesn't have to be the same drops. This would encourage a larger variety of maps to play. I don't inherently disagree, but you gotta remember that Mecha Engine and Gear Grinder have 3 missions compared to the 4 found within 2 cities. If you gave those tours equivalent drops, they'd quickly become the meta because you'd have 1 less ticket to buy for a full tour completion.
I mean, it's a good idea, right? You want to have incentive for other players to go into these other tours as well. And I don't play Mecha or Gear Grinder simply because I don't give a shit about bot killers whatsoever. You get a random weapon and that's it, as well as your loot drop, so your ticket is worth less than you would have in 2 cities, even though it's still wasted money, you know, in total at the end. But you could just balance this out with having different pools. For instance, Australian drop pools. You could also tone down the robot part drops on a tour, right? For instance, we can have at max 11 or 10 drops of 9 drops of robot parts and a weapon, and then you get a special robot part and like a fabricator. And you could tone this down on the other tours that require less missions to complete it, right? You could just give less robot parts there and then have different Australian drop pools for those tours as well. So if you want to have, for instance, an Australian Natasha for whatever reason, or an Australian Brass Beast, you play Mecha Engine. And if you want to have an Australian Crit Streak, you play Gear Grinder, right? So if you have different pools that incentivize you to play the different tools as well, you could just balance that, it's no problem. You don't even have to like balance the missions out per tool. You just have to incentive by you have just to have the incentive to play those tools, right?
think things as they are right now have turned out relatively okay, besides Steel Trap and Oil Spill being entirely irrelevant. Mech is where you go to farm Aussies the fastest, Gear Grinder's good for pre-made groups along with having the largest map pool, and Two Cities has the best map design and the highest ROI, though it is still quite negative. You're not throwing on Medic if you use something other than crits. The quick fix with crit canteens is a viable alternative. Very true, and I'd like to add that this doesn't only apply to the quick fix. Literally every medigun in MvM has something unique about it that it does better than all the others. Stock is good for shield farming via taking damage, quick fix is good for shield farming via healing, and the vaccinator gives instant revives. As long as you have some emergency
And the resistance part, right? Resistance and
crit canteens in your pocket, there's nothing to be worried about. Heavy is kind of boring to
so yeah, I don't know if that is an actual bad take. It's just a general thing that a lot of people just don't see for some reason, right? That every medigun has its own use. If I have an experienced team and they know how to stay alive better, you could have crits, right? In the as a crit streak, just to boost damage. But if you have waves that primarily focus also on just having battalions backups in them, giant battalions backups, battalion support, a lot of battalions that just make crits useless, there's no point running crit streaks, right? You might as well run something else like a fucking vaccinator or quick fix or just stock as well. You just get Uber and get invulnerability or just deal with the threat in a different way. So it always depends on what you're facing and what you're dealing with there. But every medigun works, and it just depends on who's using it and how you're using it, and also on what team you have. Like if I have people that just don't know how to utilize crits in general, if they just disappear the moment the robot sneezes in their direction, then yeah, I'm just wasting my crits to revive them, and then what do I have? I might as well just keep them alive by making them invulnerable or giving them resistance, so they can actually fight, right?
to play. You just hold M1 near a dispenser most of the time. If you're just shackled to one spot of the map and shooting from afar, I agree. Which is why I never use the Brass Beast, despite the fact it has a strong case for being the best minigun in the game. More versatile primaries like stock let you go hyper aggro on the fly, and learning to navigate when you should hold W and when you shouldn't is where I think Heavy's gameplay loop is best enjoyed. If the only difference between you and a Sentry is the fact that you have a pulse, you're probably doing something wrong. Scout?
Yeah. I mean, if you find Heavy boring, then you're probably not playing it in the most engaging way. But it is probably the least interesting, at least on, you know, skill ceiling way, at least. You have a gun and you shoot it, and that's basically it. You don't really move around a lot. You need to know how to block and how to stay alive, but there's not much to it. I mean, you can't fly around the map like crazy, like Soldier or whatever. You can't insta-kill, you can't crowd control as well. But you are good at dealing with giants, blocking, you know, stopping an actual force. And yeah, like you said, if you just sit on the spot and then shoot at shit from like 10 feet away, probably not as interesting as just going straight in there, getting in, especially in community MvM, where it's getting crazy and hectic and you're just tanking it all and your team's behind you and smashing them and you're sitting there in the middle of it all. It can be a lot of fun, actually. But yeah, Brass Beast versus Stock is always a debate. I think on more experienced teams, the Brass Beast shines more because you don't have to move as much, right? So if you're just in random teams, then I'd like to just move around more, be more versatile where I want to be, where I want to go, and it's up for debate what you really want to use.
Is not just a money collector milk mart class. He's well capable of putting high damage on the board while achieving all of these goals. Scouts should be buying damage upgrades first and things like resistances and milk recharge later. And I see too many teams who give a free pass to scouts who only money, milk, and mark while having next to no damage on the leaderboard. Telling new scout players to buy damage upgrades is probably the most high tour bubble opinion out there. The fact of the matter is that basically no one cares if the scout does damage. Just collect the money and do some milking and marking.
No one cares. It just depends on who you're asking again, right? If I see a scout who's just turning his brain off and just running at everything. Fanning black box soldiers, for instance, you know, or just dragging aggro all over the place, getting other people killed. That's bad, okay? There's being a new player and not knowing what you're doing, and then there's having like 100 tools and playing like you just took your brain and fucking dumped it somewhere else, right? You just want to have cooperation, even if you're not doing damage, right? Just use your head. It's not that hard, right? If I see a scout fan a tank, like what does that do? It doesn't help at all. So yeah, even if you don't buy damage upgrades right away, as a new player, you just need to figure out like where stuff is going, how dangerous some stuff is, what you're doing, how you're aiming, how you're behaving, how aggro works, and generally I wouldn't recommend just going straight into damage upgrades, because you probably don't know how to play around with the aggro at all. So even if you have the damage upgrades, you're probably not gaining anything from it if you're just getting smashed all the time. So I kind of agree with the take of just starting out a bit slow, right, and then experimenting with weapons and weapon upgrades, and then seeing how it all develops, how much you can tank with the overheal that you're gaining, and how you're doing with certain weapons and certain styles. And there's still nothing stopping you. That's the thing that a lot of people seem to not realize. If you go damage scout, that doesn't mean you can't throw your milk, you can't mark, right? You can still do all of those things. You can still draw aggro and distract robots. You can still do all of that on top of actually being able to kill the robots on your own too. So I would love people to just try more instead of just being accepted as the guy that gets the money. So who's to say if we're ever gonna see a change in that? But you definitely see more people trying on Potato and Moonlight servers, because it's more or less expected, and sometimes even required for scouts to pull their weight, especially on the Hollow Expert missions, where having a player just throw milk is not as helpful. Perspective at one time where Scout used his fan with the bomb was getting deployed by small robots. Yeah, for instance that. Just think, right? Think about what you're doing, what's going on, and not just run blindly into stuff. And I don't know what to say. It's kind of obvious to me, maybe not to others. I don't know.
Maxing out damage instead of resistances will just make you die more often and miss money. And if anything is going to get you kicked from a group, it'll be a D credit rating twice in a row, not a low damage number. Gradually working towards...
I mean, to get a D as Scout, you really gotta try, right? You're either AFK, you're not around, or in general your team is just shit, okay? If you can't get the money, then that means you're taking the damage, you're taking the focus, and you can't grab what's on the floor in the first place. Kind of, sort of plays in there. It's not always like super bad, but generally D ratings just happen if you don't have a scout at all. Like, I don't know.
Weaving in damage upgrades as you get more familiar with the class, that's all well and good. But going whole hog right from the beginning as a new kid off the block is the shittiest advice you can give to a new scout player, and I'm genuinely shocked at how many high tours are actually promoting it. Wave 666 is the best official Valve mission. I actually agree. Maybe my perception's a bit different given my heightened experience, but if you forced me to play any bootcamp mission for the rest of my life, I'd pick Colliginous Caper 100% of the time. Okay, here we got it.
Is it though? I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. It's also like a noob filter, right? You get tons of money, people go and buy upgrades with all the money. You can't tell what they're buying because, you know, we removed the inspect of the teammates in the first place, so you're shit out of luck there. But it's definitely a mission where you can go all out. If you know what you're doing, you can just destroy. It's like a power trip in a way. And later on, the force that the robots present is still threatening enough to put you in dangerous situations, right? It's not just a walk in the park to begin with. So, is it the best one? I mean, up for anyone else to decide. I like it. I haven't played it in quite a long time because Potato and Moonlight exists, right? And there's more variety there than just going to Ghost Town. But if there would be somebody that said, "Hey, can you help me with Ghost Town? I want to complete it or play it or something," I'd be, yeah, sure, okay, why not? I'd rather go there than say, "Can you help me with Gear Grinder or with Mecha Engine?" Right? I'm not too interested in that in the first place because of Big Rock and all this other shit. But yeah.
Another double. Infinite refunds was a terrible design choice because it killed the challenge aspect. But also, unlimited refunds has done more good than harm. It allows for variety and makes for a more fun experience. In my opinion, both of their reasonings are entirely correct, and whether it's preferable or not ultimately comes down to what you value. For a long time, you couldn't refund at the end of every wave. You had to wait until a specific point in the game to where your team collected an upgrade token. Real talk, I don't like this either. It's like, imagine going to a buffet, putting chicken on your plate, realizing it's not chicken, it's turkey, but you can't go back and get the chicken until they're 2 hours away from closing. Bit of a shitty metaphor, but you kinda get the point. Being locked into one build until an arbitrary point in the game just isn't as enjoyable as free-flow customization. That being said, it did undeniably break the entire balance of the game, and effectively gave every class in the game more credits on hand without any kind of compensating downside. An easy fix would be to keep the infinite refunds in the game, but just give them an ever-increasing price tag. Say the first refund would be free, second one costs 500 credits, third one costs 1,000, and so on and so on. This would allow you to keep fine-tuning your class for each wave, but your overall max potential would deplete the more you abused it.
A lot to unpack, right? The refund limit at the beginning was kind of bad because nobody knew how to upgrade, what to do, right? The game was new, and if you had shit upgrades, you upgraded something that was just absolutely useless. If you accidentally upgraded something, you were also shit out of luck and you couldn't do anything. The team had to bear the brunt of your mistakes, whether that's accidental or just lack of knowledge, and you couldn't do anything about it until like wave 4 when the team collected enough money. So that's kind of bad there, right? But the design choice, as they put it, it wasn't exactly a design choice, right? It was like some exploit or something around the refund limit, and Valve just couldn't figure it out, right? You could exploit it to refund all the time, and they couldn't fix it, and so they just said, you know what? Let's just allow the refunding all the time, which is good for fixing mistakes, right? But it also destroys a lot of the intended difficulty. If you have waves with a lot of robot soldiers, like this one, you would get more blast resistance, right? But then you might not have enough money for the next wave's threat, which is entirely just bullet focused. So you could just abuse this, you get just blast resistance here, and then refund, and then just get bullet resistance, right? And that kind of destroys the intended difficulty of the waves or missions. And a lot of people abuse it, and I just can't be asked to refund every wave and buy my upgrades every time again. It's just annoying, and that's why I don't do it. And I don't know, the idea of just having a ever-increasing limit of you have to actually pay to refund sounds okay on paper, but at the end of the day, if somebody is new and they just refund and they don't realize that the credits maybe are limited and they're gimping themselves by just wasting more of them, then you have the same problem as before where you have somebody that can't refund at all. They still have shit upgrades. Now this time it's just because they don't have enough money to buy any upgrades anymore. So I don't know. It's a problem that you probably can't fix that easily. And there were some experiments on the community MvM as well, where you had reversed it, where you needed a bunch of credits before you could refund, which is technically there, so you follow a certain upgrade path, right? You have an idea of what to upgrade at what point. And then we had also limited upgrades, you can refund 3 times and then that's it. So you can still fix mistakes but can't abuse it, and I'm kind of leaning in that direction but it also could still leave new players shit out of luck if they're just upgrading stuff on different classes differently, and it's still bad upgrades at the end of the day. So it's probably not a 100% good solution to this at all. And I don't think we're going to see a change on Valve's end in the first place, so it is what it is, and it's going to stay that way.
I think this would be the best of both worlds, and I hope it gets patched in one day. But no, it's never happening. High tours are toxic, but it's really common to see less experienced players ignore you or get angry when you give them helpful suggestions. Newer players need to be more open to learning instead of crossing their arms and automatically assume pros are trying to police them. True. Very true. And this is yet another reason why veterans will often dip if there's a full group of new players. You try to help these people out and are met with radio silence or fuck you, I play how I want, which are fine mentalities when you're not negatively affecting anyone else, but when the whole team's wiping because you refuse to buy projectile shield, you're the problem, not every...
I mean, is this really your problem? I mean, you didn't buy projectile shield, but that doesn't make the team die immediately. I mean, they still have heads on their shoulders, or they can still think for themselves, or they're just standing there and taking it in the face because the medic just doesn't have the upgrade. Or is there even a medic in the first place? No. If I see something that's dangerous, I'm probably just gonna get out of the way instead of getting fucking obliterated by it. So I wouldn't necessarily blame the medic, but there's a time when to use it. And when you're expecting it and it's just not there, there's also a lot of medics that use shield and they just run around like a headless chicken. Like, yeah, you have a projectile sheet that makes everyone invincible basically, and you're just throwing it all over the place, making yourself unpredictable and exposing your teammate to more danger than they need to be. But toxicity aspect exists on every spectrum. Low tools are toxic, high tools are toxic, and the opinions that just come together. There's also language barriers. I mean, I can explain some guy something and then he doesn't understand English or German or whatever language you're talking to him, right? Like, what do you do there? Nothing. I'm not gonna fucking roll out the translator on Google and then just slap an explanation in on what they're supposed to do on the fucking hopes that they're actually trying to fucking do it then, improving and taking your advice. Nah, nobody's gonna do that. And there's nothing you can do about that. Either you accept it or you just leave, right?
Everyone else. It's largely how high tours end up becoming pricks. They start off wanting to help new players, whether it be out of altruism or pure self-interest, but after repeatedly getting ignored or told off or called toxic for merely asking the pyro not to spam air blast or shit like that, their charitability towards low tours begins to wane.
I mean, there's a certain cycle, right? You start out as nobody, no knowledge, no nothing, and you're just more accepting of everything because you're also new, you don't know what's going on, so you're probably okay with that one guy trying something that you don't know yourself, if it's good or not. But at some point you come to a stage where you think you know, right, better, and then give advice that's inherently a good intention, but it's still bad advice when you look at it from a perspective of a person that actually knows what's going on. And those people are probably pretty toxic towards others at that stage, even though they're giving out completely dog shit advice. And the other way it works around as well, like trying to give advice as high tools. Some people still do it, some people just give up because God knows if it actually helps. I mean, I can't confirm if somebody got the upgrade that I recommended him because we removed the inspecting once again. And yeah, a lot of people don't try. I don't try. If somebody generally asks a question, I normally answer as best as I can. What they do with that information is up to them, if they wanna take that advice or not. It's none of my concern. I can still tell whether they did or not. And yeah, that's just how it is, really. At some point, it's just the cycle, right? You don't know anything, you think you know something, you push that opinion on other people, and then it just spreads the misinformation or just wrong information. It just goes around, and then at some point when you're elevated, you maybe know better than you think. You think back to yourself and oh god, what was I talking about like a year ago? And it's the same for me. I probably talked absolute fucking garbage opinions back in the day.
I should stress that most MvM players aren't like this. They're perfectly fine, low tours and high tours alike.
And you could argue they still have garbage opinions, but
it is a self-perpetuating issue for the people who aren't. Low tour shit at the game, high tour tries to help, low tour doesn't listen, high tour gets toxic. It isn't good for the game in either direction. Pyro players have more support and utility for MvM teams than Demo Man does, and arguably benefits the team more. I don't know how that's the case. Both of them are good medic killers, so check that box off for both of them, but neither really provide all that much utility. Demo can uber farm for the team's medic, whereas Pyro can extinguish teammates and I guess knock out the spy bots quicker. I'd say they're about equal in terms of utility. That being, not much. I prefer
Pyro versus Demo, I mean, inherently different, right? Burst, damage versus just crowd controlling, or just, you know, a stream. I don't know how to fucking call it. You just go in, you don't have to reload basically, right? Reload classes, in my opinion, are always better at just dealing with streams of robots, right? Because you don't have to reload. You don't need that downtime to get back into a position where you can actually deal damage. You always have the damage potential as long as you have ammo. So at that stage, Pyro is probably better. It also depends on how much money you have to upgrade, right? If you have little money in a mission, then it's easier to just get good at Pyro because it takes less money to get to a stage where you just obliterate everything, especially if you're backed up by medics, right? You can absolutely devastate everything as Pyro when you have a good medic that's just supporting you properly. And you can deal with everything, crowds, giants, tanks, right? But Demo Man always needs time to set up. Tanks he's not very that good at, he's decent enough, right? Even as pipe Demo. Demo Knight, also good at tanks, right? Because you don't have to reload that. But that also has its own drawback, right? When it comes to just splash damage, crowd control, and giants in general. You always need to have that crit boost to have that support, just like Pyro almost in a way. So yeah, they're both different classes, they both work differently, so they might have some stuff in common, but in general, you can't really compare that, right? A close range class versus a burst damage class. That's primarily really good at dealing with giants in one fell swoop, right? Erasing a lot of danger in a snap, whereas as Pyro you're directly into the face of your danger. So I don't know, it depends really.
Prefer to let the bots cap the first point of Manhattan. It's easier to defend. I used to feel the same way, but now my tolerance for downtime has dwindled quite a bit. I have no issue with getting pushed back or needing to regroup, but just standing around for over a minute while everyone sets back up, it's so fucking boring that I'll usually blow 100 credits on a crit canteen just to avoid it. If the mission started off at that point though, I wouldn't complain. The community
I mean, the downtime thing is also a problem, right? The ready up timer, I think we could easily cut that down to just 60 seconds the moment somebody readies up, instead of just having 2 minutes and then it just goes down to like 90 or 80 or something, and then to 60 when you have 3 people ready. So you just could, somebody readies up, 60 seconds, more than enough, and then whenever more people ready up, just cut it by like, I don't know, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, maybe half of the time. And at some point when 5 people are ready, you're at like 15 seconds or something, right? So just cut down on that. It also erases the need for people to constantly spam F4 or ready up spammers, right? It's just quicker. And if you really need 60 seconds to decide on your upgrades, or you need some time to, I don't know, maybe do something, then you still have a minute, you still have maybe 30 seconds to do it, and if you're gone for like 30 seconds more, nobody's gonna immediately notice that you're not around. And if it's something long time that's coming up, like you gotta walk your dog or whatever, then you probably shouldn't be playing MvM at that point in the first place.
The MvM maps should have their own dedicated spots in the main menu so everyone gets a chance to see them. It's always been really weird to me how Valve have legitimized community MvM to the point of signal boosting their new campaigns, and on top of that, adding in-game items for completing them, but for some reason won't even entertain the idea of implementing them in-game. I don't play community MvM very much at all, but the reasoning for that has nothing to do with the perceived quality of each mission. The reviews are almost universally positive. It just blows my mind how fucking Prop Hunt of all things was an actual consideration for an integrated content update. But adding 4 community missions into the base game and just making a tour out of it, that would literally become the main content for thousands of players going forward, and would probably net them their highest grossing update since Blue Moon. And let's not forget that crate unboxings also give you a shot at MvM tickets, so there's already a player funnel being established every time there's a seasonal update. I don't fucking get it. I've taken shits that have lasted longer than the hype for Saxton Hale. If Valve are ever gonna look to the community for new content additions, you got a whole brochure right here. Give it a try. If I'm hyping it up too much, so be it. But just one update. Give us one update where they added community MvM tours. See what happens. I think people would really enjoy it. I
think the idea is okay. Making a tour out of it is probably complicated, right? Because map makers, mission makers, and then all the other people working on like an actual mission to completion. Like, how would you split that with like monetary gains out of a tour, like contractually stuff, and then paying people out? It's probably annoying and complicated if you wanna really throw it in there. But there's really nothing stopping them from just putting community in like alternate game modes. For instance, you have pastime in there, and sure, that's on official servers and whatever, but why not just give them a spot? They've been around for years on end, always making campaigns. They add the mission medals, right? The campaign medals in the game. So just maybe having an extra spotlight there. I don't know how it would work out depending on the visibility of it. If the servers would just be full 24/7, you actually wouldn't have time to queue into them. I don't know. That would remain to be seen, right? You could run some tests there, how that plays out, but Valve's also not paying for their servers, right? So even if they signal boosted, like, it's almost like the profiting off of just the community efforts again, in a way, because it gets more people playing and maybe incentivized into actual MvM tools. I don't know. It's kind of weird. You would wish to see it there, but I also can't see why it's not. Right? It's not official, and even if they added official, then it would need to have like some contractual shit going on, right? Like, I don't know. Map stamps, for instance, would need to exist for MvM maps, right? I guess.
Infinitely more fun to play with newer players that struggle to complete the mission than a high tour goon squad that steamrolls through every challenge, given the new players are communicative. That hook at the end is a massive if, but in general, I agree. Actually having some tension helps keep things interesting, and you don't get a lot of that in high tour lobbies. Movement speed is
So yeah, reason I solo queue most of the time, right, is the random teams, the random experiences are generally more interesting to me personally. Like, I'm not looking to complete a 2 cities tour in like 30 minutes, right? I'm looking for an interesting experience. Whether that's an enjoyable experience is up for debate, right? Some experiences are annoying and just a pain in the ass, but I would still take those over just falling asleep to a scores demo obliterating a mission. So I agree with that too. And I mean, if you don't like something, right, like scores demos obliterating, you can still leave the game, right? I used to do that once in a while, tend to do that still, if I just don't feel like, falling asleep if it's already a slow day, basically.
Voted on basically every class. 100% agree. It's probably the most underrated universal upgrade in the game besides maybe ammo canteens. Beggar Soldier gets more flexibility to capitalize on ramp up, Engineer can reposition his buildings faster, Medic can keep up with Sentry Busters and get more Uber Saws in, and obviously it lets every class avoid oncoming fire much more easily, which is a really big deal. In fact, nowadays I rarely ever buy more than 1 point of blaster bullet res beyond the last wave, because at that point, quick feet alone is sufficient enough damage mitigation. Groups like
Spoken like a beggar's maiden. I don't know. A lot of people swear on movement speed on medic, for instance, but in other classes, I don't know. I don't really tend to buy movement speed at all, unless I'm just feeling silly. Tend to do just one on scout even. So I don't know. I can't really talk on that. If you enjoy it, if it works for you, okay, fine. Pyro definitely works there as well, because it just allows you to circle around. Spy especially too. Okay, I was lying, right? I buy it on certain classes, but I don't know. Soldier, medic never really does make sense to me. I mean, in the same way, why don't you just buy jump height? You can also dodge stuff like that, right? Oh, there's a rocket flying towards me. I'm just jumping super high and the rocket just passes me. So yeah, I'll get to your question.
TacoBot or MariBot are ruining the game mode faster than cheaters or gas passer users.
I don't know, is a genuinely bad MvM opinion, if you ask me.
Only in the hardcore MvM community is this considered a hot take.
Hot take, is it really?
I had to guess, like 95% of you watching right now probably agree with this, but if you even attempt to throw this opinion around in some prominent high-tour circles, be prepared to get called a cheater supporter. It
has nothing to do with being a cheater supporter, right? If you just disagree with like this group or whatever. That's genuinely just not correct information, at least in my opinion. Back in the day, TacoBots, right, notoriously toxic. They turned the whole spiel around, so mostly just going after cheaters now. That's why the MariBot split happened, right? The most toxic people got ousted from TacoBot, and then they made their own group. And from what I've heard or gathered, they also don't care if there's cheaters or whatever, but I can't confirm that myself. It's just hearsay, right? So yeah, TacoBot nowadays probably pretty chill. MariBot probably the toxic people now, but chances you're running into any of them at all probably depends on what tour you're playing, and even then the chance is really low. It's really low, and I don't even know if Mario's still around. Yeah, not heard or seen anyone of them in fucking ages. Just run into some TacoBot people. I'm friends with some TacoBot people, right? And it's a group of people, right? You can't just say, oh my god, this person is fucking toxic. That means that other person is fucking toxic, right? It just doesn't make any sense. You have to always evaluate a person and then see what the other one does. And over time, opinions and things change. So is it a big problem in MvM? Absolutely not. And the option of just, not engaging, not playing with them still exists. So just leave and find another game. So
promise you, I'm not strawmanning here. A good chunk of high tours view toxicity as mundane, acceptable even. So by equating those two issues, in their mind, you're treating cheating as also mundane, if not acceptable. And they really do not like hearing that. Believe me, they should add sniper robot sightline lasers to the sniper rifles in the base game. Totally on board with that.
I don't know how that's an MvM opinion, since it's a more casual idea, right? Just adding the laser there. Could try it.
Anything that makes Sniper less polarizing should be tested. I've never cared for the debate about whether or not Sniper is overpowered, because in my mind, it's just entirely irrelevant. Overpowered or not, shit design needs a rework. Remove the participation trophy 50 credit bonus for an A rating.
Credit bonus, that's a good one.
So,
too.
like infinite refunds, this was something patched into the game later on. You used to only get the 100 credit bonus for collecting every cash pile. If you missed even $1, you'd forfeit the entire bonus. Later on, I think around Gunmetal, Valve patched in the 50 credit consolation prize, and I think it was a great change. It lowered the group-wide punishment for a scout even mildly underperforming, and made him way more accessible to new players. In my opinion, removing it would only hurt the game. I always...
Yeah, the credit bonus thing was kind of fucked, even back in the day, when you could get more money than was in the mission, and that would diminish your bonus, like it was bugged, okay? And I think they fixed it since they changed the whole credit bonus thing around, but you could get a bonus of 10, you get a bonus of 20 if you somehow managed to get more money than was actually allocated. So even there, if you would have gotten the full bonus, you didn't get the full bonus just simply because the game bugged out. And yeah, if you lost $1, you didn't get any bonus at all. And the 50 bonus change based on the percentage of how many credits you collected is still okay. But I would say that you should probably make it more percentage based, right? The more you miss, the less of a bonus you get. And sure, getting like a 20 bonus might not be amazing, but it's, you know, scales better if you just have percentage. Hey, I missed like 10% or 5% or something, then you get a 50 bonus. If you miss like, I don't know, 20%, you get only a 20 bonus. Okay, it's a bit exaggerated to get the point right. I think the A bonus counts to like 90% of credits collected, so you get still the 50% thing or something. Don't quote me on that. I don't know the percentages, but I mean, it's good, right? You don't get punished for just missing a single credit, your whole team. Like, it's not really your fault in the end of the day if there's some random credit in some corner that you're not aware of because somebody killed something halfway across the map. Like, how the fuck are you supposed to know that?
I see people wanting new Australiums, but not new killstreak sheens or effects, and I feel like the killstreak effects especially have a lot of potential. I wish, but that's not a bell I'm looking to ring given Valve's recent track record of forcing 18 variants of particle vomit into any and all content updates. Unusual effects are on an unsustainable trajectory. They'll literally outnumber the amount of hats at some point in the 2030s if they don't start cutting the chaff. I'd rather keep the few killstreak effects we have instead of opening Pandora's box. But if Valve ever shows proof of changing their philosophy, I'm game. Sure. TF.
See, this is the problem with Valve right now, right? They always go with quantity over quality. They just cram missions, maps in there, effects or whatever. Like, okay, fine, it's content, but is it good content? Is the question, right? We could have 50 killstreak effects and sheens. There's a gazillion of colors you can add into the game as a sheen if you want to. But does it really benefit anyone at the end of the day? Like, do I care? Do I want it? At some point you're just losing track of what even exists in the first place. You would have to need, like, maybe get something else for your weapons. They played around with stickers in CSGO for your weapons. I mean, God forbid I wouldn't want to see that in TF2. But something along those lines, right? You need to add something more than just the same thing over and over. There's like, how many unusual effects in the game? Unusual effects were something rare, right? Something unusual that you would see, oh my god, look at that, it's crazy. And now I see an unusual effect and I'm like, I have no idea what that shit is even called. I have no idea from what update that is anymore. You had like the first gen, second gen, third gen, it was all laid out, right? You added the new hats and then you had the new hats with those effects. And you can still add unusual effects in, but not in the fucking amount they just slammed the shit into the game. Holy shit, man. And then people go around in the trading community and are like, oh my god, look at this dog shit effect on this dog shit head. But it's 1 out of 1, man. It's 1 out of 1. I want like 5,000 keys for it. Okay, baby? Come on. give me the fucking keys, baby. Like, it's just stupid, okay? Like, yeah, cool, you have this god-awful fucking hat on this effect. I'm not gonna give you fucking my house keys for it. Just because you say it's 1 out of 1. It's just add something that looks nice, that's fine, right? I'm sure there's effects in there that look nice. But the rate they're going is just insane. It's just, nobody can remember them. At all. And I don't even care to remember them. And they're just adding stuff for the sake of adding stuff. We need something in the game, right? So they just do that. Instead of, I don't know, making it good.
TFTubers should stop making MvM videos. Hey, fuck you, man. We give great advice.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Knockback is useful and fun as fuck. Everyone else is... Okay, maybe that last guy had a point.
Say what you want about Big Joey, right? Knockback is fun if you use it correctly, right? And you can make it work as well. But I wish it would work differently, right? I don't know why you would have... Well, I guess the damage penalty exists for the knockback to actually have a use. Like, why would I knock back something when it's dead before the knockback even has its intended effect, right? But couldn't you just increase the knockback and... Okay, that's also a bad idea actually. But you can still use it, right? If there's some niche situations like bombs dropping, you can save that. You can make robots fly around and take insane fall damage if it's bosses. You can push stuff into pits, for instance, as a solution to dangerous situations. It has its uses, but it's also kind of considered a bad thing because nobody likes to... Oh my god, my sticky pile is there and just heavy used rage, and oh my god, now my sticky pile just sits on the floor and I can't do shit with it. Wow, cool. Now it takes another 10 seconds for that rage to run out, then drain to walk into my pit, my sticky pile, or... Like, it's just... used in the wrong way, and that's why it's getting a bad rep, probably. And it also can be used to just grieve, right? You can use knockback rage and push it Bustle into teammates that don't know it's there, that don't know that you're raging into it, and that you pushed it into NG buildings or whatever, right? So there's definitely griefing potential there, and just use it right and nobody's gonna complain.
Matchmaking penalties for MvM need to return. Ooh, now that is a very, very spicy one. So back when MvM first launched, it would put players who would repeatedly leave groups wave 1 into lower priority matchmaking. It was blatantly touted as a feature of the game mode. Now, this sounds good on paper as a toxicity deterrent, but in many ways, it was the opposite. As it turns out, forcing a player to stay in a lobby they really don't want to be in doesn't breed the most pleasant of attitudes. And who would that be taken out on? The rest of your team. The funny thing is that leaving matches would give you a Q penalty, but getting vote kicked wouldn't. So what players would do is ask their teammates to kick them from the game, and if they did not comply, they'd just AFK and fuck everything up for their team. This is another case of Valve having good intentions, but not having enough foresight to account for player behavior. And when you consider that now we have things like the gas passer and no more teammate inspection, both of which would cause a lot of potential strife, I think it's best we let players come and go as they please. It's better for everyone that way. Sniper...
Yeah, the penalty thing is always a debate once in a while again. Like, it was... Valve wanted people to play the game, right, and not just willy-nilly leave and actually work together. And when the game was coming out, right, so you were getting a penalty if you would just... Oh my god, this team sucks, and you were leaving, and you would have a penalty of like 5 minutes or 10 minutes or something. Don't fully remember how long it was. So yeah, people would just queue for a mission they maybe would have already done, or they wanted to play with their friend now, or they just had to... some other reason, right? And they were just asking, hey, can you kick me? I want to do blah blah blah. So yeah, you would have to kick them so they wouldn't get a penalty. And generally that worked, but also if people didn't want to kick you, yeah, you just sit there and, right, you just sit there and idle, and that doesn't help anyone, and at the end of the day, you just had a teammate that was useless. So Nowadays, everybody just leaves, and that has its own detriments, right? Nobody's forced to play with anyone, and there's no negative side effects to just abandoning games. So, again, a good and a bad side. I don't know how you would fix this in general. I think just leaving is okay, but it should maybe be considered how much you're leaving, right? If you leave once or you leave twice because, you know, reasons or this team or whatever, but if you do it like 10 times in a matter of half an hour, maybe, you know, give that guy half a minute break, okay? Because he's wasting everyone's time by just trying to find games, by sniping games, right? So the more you do it, maybe you could do it that way, get punished more, because leaving once or twice or thrice is totally okay, totally reasonable, right? But doing it over and over and over and over again, you could also do it just to grief, right? Pick scout, get in a game, then leave the moment the wave starts, right? The team doesn't know what to do, it goes to shit, you don't get any credits, right? So it's kind of a grieving method if you want to use it that way. I don't know, it's just, I think it should come back, but it needs to be in a smaller way.
Sniper shouldn't have explosive headshots, or at least have it toned down. Sniper being a pick class shouldn't have him soloing waves with one really good upgrade. The latter is definitely true. It's extremely degenerate game design that centralizes the whole mission around one class. Removing it entirely though, that would easily make Sniper the worst class in the game by a large margin. The best suggestion I've heard is to transform it into a chargeable cooldown rather than have it baseline. That'd probably balance him a bit better, but at the same time you probably just end up having the pyro problem where you accidentally blow your medic picking tool too early and you end up wiping the whole group because you didn't have enough leeway. I don't know, there's probably a good compromise here, but we can all agree his effectiveness ceiling is off the charts with enough skill, and I think lowering it would be a good call. The direct
with enough skill, right? Says the man sitting on Godspot Rock on Big Rock. Generally, I think Sniper would still be okay if the explosive headshot was just affecting Uber medics, for instance, or it was based on charge rate, maybe. Right, you would need the full charge for the explosive headshot to work out. I'm not a Sniper expert, right? But I do know Sniper players that are really good at Sniper, even without explosive headshot working as, you know, as it does now. So the point that he's making, that Sniper would just become the worst class, is definitely not right. Sniper would still have its place. It would just actually require players to be good at it. For instance, the Hitman's Heatmaker is an absolutely broken weapon, as you just saw. You could just shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot. And I keep saying, you know, if you're good with Heatmaker, okay, I mean, does it make you skilled? In my opinion, no. Because it's a fucking training wheel rifle in a way. Because it's the easiest thing to use, because it's the most broken thing with a broken upgrade, especially if you're on God spots or whatever, right? But if you're actually skilled as Sniper, you're good with other rifles, right? Not just with a Heatmaker, okay? Because if the weapon carries you just simply because the broken upgrade and the weapon is broken as well, I don't know how good you actually really are. So if you're good without EH and with a rifle that's not a Heatmaker, then you're actually good as Sniper, okay? And I can fully respect that. But a Heatmaker sitting on a guard rock and saying he's skilled, come on, man. Just don't kid yourself.
Direct hit is a massively slept on primary for Soldier. Initial damage and projectile speed make missions go brr. Nah, not really. At least on Valve missions, you get slightly higher damage on giants and tanks, but completely demolish all of your AoE capabilities, which is the main reason why people play Soldier in the first place. Not to mention the fact that it gets bottlenecked by only allowing you to upgrade 3 ticks of the damage upgrade. So by the mid-game, any other rocket launcher will have caught up to its single target damage. There's maybe an argument for it being better than the Liberty launcher, but almost every other primary barring the rocket jumper has it beat. Not every...
So yeah, direct hit is kind of a trap, right? You get the damage bonus, but what a lot of people don't see is the splash damage just being lost, and splash is massive as Soldier, right? There's a lot of damage there, and you could kind of sort of negate the splash damage being lost by just getting more rocket specialist upgrades, but it's also detrimental because it doesn't really help you that much in general at the end, and it requires a substantial investment there. And like you said, you only get 3 ticks of damage upgrades, which kind of negates the initial damage bonus. If it would have the normal ticks of damage, right, the normal 4 ticks, so you would actually have a rocket launcher that has higher damage at the end of everything than any other rocket launcher. You could maybe see it as a weapon that's really strong, despite the loss of the splash damage, right? But the way it is right now, it's not good to use as a soldier. It does work, and if you hit your shots early on, it can help as well with the initial, free damage that you have. But in late game, you're definitely gonna feel the lack of splash and then the damage just being the same as every other rocket launcher. And I wish there was something else with the direct hit, like it had a different bonus to it. Maybe if you actually land a direct hit on something, you get, I don't know, a bonus, or something. You can use it as a bonus takedown weapon, like you get something, some niche that it could potentially fill battling against something, like a free bonus against giant scouts, for instance. You don't need rocket specialists. You get a direct hit on a giant scout and they get the free stun that you would usually just get by upgrading rocket specialist, for instance, right? So maybe something there to fill the gap, or just getting that 4th tick on damage upgrades maybe could help this weapon. But as it stands, it's okay to use, but it's definitely not the best weapon.
Everyone needs to F4 instantly after a wave. Yes, they do, okay? I will die on this fucking hill. It doesn't take 8 years to buy bullet resistance. It doesn't take 8 years to set up your buildings. It doesn't take 8 years to set up your damn crit stickies that most of the time will be blown up on some tiny fucking bat scout with less HP than fucking Biden. Look, I get occasionally people gotta piss, unwrap their granola bar, whatever, but having a 90-second jerk-off sesh between every single wave has become my biggest pet peeve with the game mode. And 10 years into the goddamn game, we should be better than that. We should be better, okay? Just press the button. Press it. Press it! Oh, and that one.
Spoken like a gambling addict, if you ask me. I mean, yeah, it's annoying. We talked about the time requirement just being way too big for the mission to actually start if nobody readies up. Do you have to ready up right away? I mean, a lot of people expect it. I tend to do it if I don't forget about it, right? Sometimes you just forget about pressing the button. Happens to everyone. And yeah, it sucks to just wait like 60 seconds for this one guy to get his shit together, but he also knows what he needs to upgrade, right? If I'm a new player and I don't know, shit, what am I gonna get? The wave has this threat and these giants, do I get this or that? I mean, there's some time to consider some things for players that just don't know, they don't have the upgrade path figured out, they don't know how to react to certain threats in a wave, maybe. They haven't played it before, so some time allocation is definitely a good idea, to get people there the time to just make decisions, but I don't know. Yeah, it can be annoying, but what are you gonna do? You can shout at them over mic if you want. You can be passive aggressive and just be a fucking ready up spammer if you want, but it's not gonna change. Nothing's gonna change about this. And don't forget about the laptop players, right? That don't know how to press the F4 key. Okay.
1, 2.
It's function button and then the button to ready up, right? Or you could also go into your options and then just change whatever button is the ready up thing, right? You could put it on anything. It doesn't need to be F4. It could be O, it could be C, it could be one of your mouse buttons for all I care.
Overdose is better than the crossbow, stock is better than beggars, stock is better than the brass beast. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Agreed on the overdose being better.
You can speak like Mario to remind them, yeah, that's
Better
true.
than the crossbow. The movement speed bonus alongside Mad Milk syringes are more upside than some minor ranged healing. The stock minigun being better than the brass beast is a bit more contentious, but its versatility probably gives it the edge in solo queue. The stock rocket launcher being better than the beggars though, no shot. The upgrade.
So yeah, better weapons. Oh, brain rot. Yeah, you're late, but it's okay. You're Still here. It's all that matters. Things being better than other things, I mean, it's an opinion, right? I used to use the overdose when I started out, and it was okay, right? As the movement bonus, for instance. And then later on, I used the crossbow primarily in casual, so I also adapted that to my MvM gameplay, and I generally like to use the crossbows better, even though people like and swear on Mad Milk syringes, and they're really good too. But I just like my crossbow better. Like, what are you gonna do, right? If you like something better, you're just gonna use that over something else. Just like with his baggers, right? He liked his baggers more, so he's gonna use the baggers more than he would probably using stock. It's just how it is. Ranged healing still works. If I see a sniper off in the distance, what am I gonna do with an overdose, right? If I'm right at the front supporting my heavy and a sniper shouts behind me for medic, I don't have 20 seconds to walk back there and fucking give him a nice little snuggle. No, I pull out my crossbow, shoot an arrow over there, he's fully healed, and I get back to my business in like 5 seconds. So it does have its niches, its uses. There's people getting flung across the map into the skybox, they're about to fucking die, you know, falling on the floor, and then you hit that miracle arrow, you know, saving a life, and they're in front of you trying to give you a little suckle, right, as a little thank you for rescuing them from certain defeat. So it still has its nice moments. It's just whatever you prefer. Same with the other weapons, really. Stock versus Brass Beast, opinion thing, whatever you want before we went over this. And stock rocket launcher versus Beggars, I mean, there's no debate there. The Beggars is broken because it doesn't need a proper reload, right? You can just spam rockets, and spam rockets. So it's a busted weapon, so naturally it's going to be better. And the angle deviation only matters on like mid to long range, so if you're right next to robots, it doesn't even matter that much in the first place. So the downside's there, even if there's like I don't even know what it has, if it has like a explosion radius penalty or whatever. I haven't looked at it in a while. It's still better simply because you don't need to reload with it. There's no debating there.
Building Canteen makes Engineer incredibly boring. They're massively strong and boil down Engineer's gameplay to press a button when building breaks. Totally disagree on this one. I think the shittiest moments among every class in the game is when you're stuck doing busy work instead of being in the fight. Repairing sentries might have been a good balancing mechanism for risky positioning, but it's also just fucking boring, and I'm glad there's a way to bypass it. Spy is a...
The canteen thing for Engineer is kind of a thing that was attempted to be changed on community as well, where the upgrade time for sentries could be boosted. For instance, you don't need as many swings to upgrade a building, you know, to get away from the massive necessity of just getting a level up on your buildings. And it kind of is a good idea, and it is kind of boring, you know, to just try and build your building up. But you know, canteen, your building breaks, whether that's your fault or not is up for debate, and then you just press a button and you get a full building back. It's kind of cheap, right? Engineer is the only class really that I primarily use canteens on, simply because you can also use it to your advantage, right? If you want to sacrifice a sentry or use it for bustles, I don't know. It's whatever you want, right? Is Engineer boring? If you play it boring, yeah. You can use a sentry for so many things. You can use your primary weapons for so many things. You can do whatever you want, right? But if you're just sitting behind your sentry and just whacking it with a wrench, then probably boring. If you're just in the mix and in the fights and helping your team and always there and doing things, I don't mind fucking building my sentry up. You know, I don't mind slapping a level 1 in front of a giant heavy just to body block it. You know, just to save maybe 2 seconds. Maybe save it from dropping. You can just spam canteens just to body block infinitely as well. Does that make it good? I don't know. Probably broken as hell. I mean, the Wrangler is broken as hell too. Like, what other secondary is as good on MvM for Engineer? Maybe the short circuit in some niche situations where there's a lot of spam going on over just having a Wrangler, but canteens, I mean, I tried playing without canteens for a while. It's kind of annoying if the team just doesn't know how to hold something together and your building constantly goes down. But you can also work around it in MvM. Man up, official Valve missions mostly. It does work on community too, where you can just forego canteens. There was also missions where the canteen prices were increased to like twice or 3 times the amount that they were costing. So you were thinking twice about, hey, do you want to spend 100 credits to rebuild your sentry, or do you just manually do it? And it kind of is also a play of cooperation, right? If your engineer sentry goes down, you kind of want to support him, right? You want to take the fire off of him so he has time to rebuild. So it's kind of like a cooperative thing as well, where you help your team with your sentry and they help you rebuild if something goes bad. It just gets annoying with the dispenser, and that's more of a thing with new players. Maybe they normally prioritize sentries, they don't have canteens, then you don't have a dispenser, everybody has no ammo, and it just all goes to hell, and it's annoying as fuck when you don't have any ammo. So do canteens help? Absolutely. Are they broken? Probably, yeah. But how do you make that better? Probably by less swings and upgrading. Could maybe make that a upgrade for engineers specifically, where you just need less swings but with more metal input into a sentry to re-upgrade it. Could try that out. Or just force people, right? Just force people, no canteens, play the game. Canteens are banned, see how it goes. If they hate it or not. Survey it, make a poll, I don't know.
A good class and extremely overhated. At least on Valve missions, he is the weakest in the game, and I'm shocked at how many people think it's anywhere close. Of the 3 main threats that comprise MvM's gameplay, small robots, giants, and tanks, Spy is fucking futile for 2 out of the 3. There's no debating this. On any wave that's mostly composed of small robots or tanks, Spy will get out-metered by literally everyone. And sure, he's great against giants and mid-sized robots. Nobody will deny that. But there's also a lot of variance in how easy it is to cap on his niche. He's frail as shit, requires a lot of setup and strict timing for each circle stab, he's susceptible to lag spikes and teammate aggro in a way that no other class is. It's just not a good time. Look, if there's a high tour Spy player on my team, I'm sure they'll perform just fine. And on high giant density waves, he's amazing. One of the best in the game. But I'm sorry, no one is going to convince me that a class that spends half the game in the cuck chair, waiting for the small robots and tanks to be over with, is ever going to have any kind of widespread viability among multiple skill levels. Some people can make him work, most people are better off playing anything else. Demo Night.
Is Spy overhated in MvM? Definitely would agree with that. Spy is really strong, even in Valve missions, right? Even if he wants to claim that Spy has no place there or whatever. Other options are strong because they are inherently busted in the first place, right? Because weapons are just overpowered and Valve pacing in missions is just shit. So other classes shine more. You're also talking about a class that is getting focused down the moment the robots spot them. You're right next to the threat, whatever it is. If it's a burst demo, a burst giant, a giant heavy, whatever it is, you're right next to them, just like Pyro, right? Everything looks at you. Meanwhile, you're comparing that to Sniper, who's halfway across the map. Nobody sees him, but he still demolishes everything. Like, is that balanced? Not really, right? So Spy is more of a specialist, generally just for giants. And that's okay. If there's a mission, even Valve missions, right? If you don't have somebody just destroying everything, Spy, if you're good, if you know what you're doing, Spy can still pull his weight. He can still do good damage, comparable to other classes. So all you need to do is actually know how to do it, how to play, and have a chance at it. If you have a Demo Knight who runs around in your business, a Scout who runs around in your business, maybe even the Pyro who runs around in your business, you're probably gonna have a worse time. But is that really your fault? It's not really, right? It's just teammates that are not considerate enough of your existence. They don't think about what you want to do, and they get in your way. In the same way, I'm not sitting in front of, my engineer sentry as spy and just draw all the fire towards it and get his shit destroyed, right? I'm not doing that. I could if I wanted to, but it's not very cooperative, right? So spy really shines, especially I think on mecha or more gear grind or so, where he gets a bit more praise for actually dealing with threats, because it depends also on how much money you have, right? Spy, not very money intensive to get to his full damage potential in the first place. So you can dish out a lot of damage, even on wave 1s, by just having 800 credits. You get 2 armor penetration and you do tons of damage just on giant threats. You can eliminate them. You can also just draw aggro like nothing else, right? Every robot will ignore your team in its entirety the moment you show yourself. You can draw so much fire away and just make your team basically invulnerable by just existing. And that is something that also always gets overshadowed for some reason, right? You are just an aggro magnet, the best in the game. And yeah, you're frail, but if you know how to work it, you can save your team if your medic is down, if the NG or heavy or whatever gets threatened by something that you definitely know he stands no chance against on his own, he has to back out or he's just gonna die to it. You just draw that aggro and keep your people alive. And I don't know, it's powerful in my opinion. Even if you don't do damage at that stage yourself, you're still supporting your team in that situation. So I think it's definitely overhated as a class, and a lot more people need to realize what you can actually do as spy. And the whole, oh my god, why you spy, we need a scout, blah 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 bullshit. Even as a med picker, yeah, you're not amazing, but you can still get 3-4 if you have the chance. And let's say you have a demo and he missed the medic, he can't get it, he died, or the sniper is dead and nobody's there to fucking be able to deal with the Uber medics or whatever. You can still do it. And especially on giant medics, when you don't have time to set up or teams are around, you just destroy that shit in like seconds, okay? It's just insane. So when it comes to crazy threats like that, even bosses, like circle stabbing for instance, if you know how to pull that shit off, those bosses are just melting away. So I don't know. I think Weezy should spend more time actually playing Spy and learning more about Spy, and I'm genuinely meaning that in a good way, right? Because he just sees the overpowered things in official MvM probably, and then judges that towards a class who is highly specialized and highly, you know, probably has the highest skill ceiling for how to do things. It's the most difficult to learn and be good at. Compare that to classes which is just way easier to do. I don't know. Doesn't make it bad. Just makes it harder to be good at it.
Is infinitely more fun than the Scottish Resistance. Literally every other demo playstyle was more fun than the SR. Pipe demo, stock stickies, demo night, hybrid night. The Scottish Resistance is a one and done carry weapon, which can be really fun if you're shooting for an efficient round, but if you just want to fuck off throughout the mission, every other loadout is more enjoyable to play. The Classic is
Yeah, demo, I mean scores, I've already said it, it's probably better. It's better on Valve missions because you have way more time to set it up and get it going. If you go with the scores to community missions, you can still do it on certain missions, and if you know what's going on and how it happens. But it's way harder to like just absolutely demolish waves or missions there than it would be in official. So yeah, I wish more people would play it maybe around with demo night or with just pipe demo. So pipe demo is strong, you don't have any damage fall off, you can just spam. The moment you have enough ammo, you can take down pretty much everything else that soldier would need a specific upgrade for to negate his damage fall off, right? So you always do, no matter how far away you are, you always do that 100. and it's strong, and it's really fun too. Yeah.
Actually good in MvM. I'm curious as to the combination of life of
Okay, so
able to play. The classic
when I saw this the first time, I just don't understand this comment. And Erica was saying they were just memeing, they were shit posting, right? But classic is actually good in MvM. It's just already an insane statement, okay? But I don't even understand the rest of the explanation. It's no heatmaker, but with upgrades, fire rate, fire and charge rate. I mean, I guess you means reload, right? And charge rate, it definitely rivals it because you don't need to build up focus to mass beam big guys. Like, charge rate is focus though. Like, I don't understand. You need it, but you don't need it. And then giants, like, what are they talking about? Are they just talking about body shot damage on giants instead of headshot damage? I'm just confused if like what they mean here. If you want to just go for body shot damage, the Machina is probably a better one, right? If it's inherent penetration as well, you could get more done there. I assume I'm not very proficient on any of this, but the classic can headshot without being like fully charged, right? So it's probably the worst thing. And then if you're fully charged and you miss a shot, then you have to wait for a charge again before you even get a shot. So I don't know. This is a meme take? I don't know. It's definitely a bad MvM opinion.
is actually good in MvM. I'm curious as to the combination of life events that led you to the point of forming that opinion. MvM is better than the base game. No, definitely not. Look, I know I'm the MvM guy around here, but I'm under no illusion as to how repetitive playing the exact same half-dozen maps can get. When you include community MvM, the variety does skyrocket, but at the end of the day, nothing's ever beating casual TF2. I have
I mean, I don't know. I like MvM better than casual. I guess it's just a personal opinion again. I haven't played any casual in like years because I simply just don't care about being better than rando guy on fucking this other team. Okay? And I don't know, I just don't care about it as much anymore as I used to. I used to put thousands, okay, not thousands, I put like, what? I don't know, 2,000 hours or something into normal game. And then most of my game time, which is like near to 9,000, is just MvM, so it's like 80% MvM and 20% normal games, so I don't know. It's just an opinion, right? What do you like, better or not? So
12,000 hours
is
on
it
this
better?
game. Not even 20%
To me,
has
yeah.
been spent playing MvM. And that might sound surprising given how much I talk about it, but I really do prefer PvP. I just don't talk about it much because I like making videos that no one's ever made before.
And PvP also has its downsides. If you're getting stumped by a team that's just stacked, you're not gonna have as much fun, right? Nobody likes to fucking get obliterated. And in MvM, it's the same thing. Nobody likes, I mean, at least I don't like a team that's just blasting everything away, you know, that's just box standard boring, playing the same thing over and over again. And yeah, you don't have a lot of variety of official Valve stuff, but there's still community MvM, and there's tons of variety there. So does it ever get boring to play the same thing over and over? If you do it over and over all the time, and you don't change it up, yeah, sure. Casual has tons of missions, tons of people are playing it. Well, missions, maps. So yeah, sure, there's way more variety there. That could make it more fun, but do I care to play on 5 CP? Payload, King of the Hill, right? It's just more to do, more to choose from. Even if you want to play pastime, or what was that other thing? Manpower.
And the decade-long drought of MvM content made it an easy mantle to pick up. And finally, everything about the MvM community has made me not want to play MvM whatsoever. They're so insanely toxic over a largely forgotten game mode in a game that's on borderline life support. I don't have the patience to deal with potential bad actors.
Well, this is a take that I just don't understand. And it's kind of sad, because they don't want to get into MvM because they believe it's insanely toxic. It's still alive, right? MvM has been alive for like 12 years at this point. mostly due to community efforts, but Valve MvM still works, it's still running, it's still alive, as maybe not as much as day one, right, or the first year, because everything's been farmed to shit, and it's not as valuable or profitable anymore to get into that, but it's nowhere near dead. And you don't have to deal with bad actors either. You can just leave. Right? Nothing's stopping you. If you see somebody that's like not vibing with you or whatever, just leave. Find a different game. Nothing's stopping you.
We've talked a lot about toxicity both in this video and on my channel writ large, but you shouldn't ever take that as a proxy for how the majority of games go. In the same way that if all you do is scroll TikTok, you'd be convinced that every Waffle House in the country needs an armed security guard at every location, MvM content kind of falls under the same umbrella. The reason these moments of high tours freaking out go so viral is because of their atypicality. Almost no games actually go this way. If you've resisted trying out the game mode out of toxicity related fears, I can understand that, but just know that it doesn't encompass the vast majority of players. In fact, toxicity in general has definitely gone down since the late 2010s or early 2020s.
Well, late 2020s, that was like 1918.
Or hell, maybe you'll be one of the unlucky ones and go down a funny rabbit hole, which will make for a good 3 AM Discord vent session. Give it a try if you haven't, you'll probably be fine. And real quick before we go, I'd just like to mention that I've now officially made a second channel, WeezyTF1. If you're looking for McDonald's TF2 content, i.e. low effort rambles between the video lulls on this channel, go there. If you want to see me in the flesh, behind the banana, there you go. I told you all I'd face reveal 2 years ago, now you're finally getting it. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, any likes, subs, or comments would be very much appreciated. Twitter, Discord, and second channel are in the description, and that's all I got. See ya.
So yeah, bad MvM opinions, definitely some in there. Some not as much as others, but I mean, it really always depends on who you're asking, right? Some probably agree with this, some don't, and that's okay. And it's just MvM, right? That's just how it is. Opinions. You have one, I have one. You shit on me, I shit on you. If you leave me alone, I'll leave you alone. It's just that simple, right? So yeah, definitely better than his 100 ways to succeed in MvM. Right, because he's just talking about opinions on things, even though I disagree with some of them, especially the spy thing. I think he's still more in this gambling mindset, right, where he doesn't really appreciate MvM for MvM itself, just for the loot grinding mechanic of it all. But I mean, he doesn't play a lot of community MvM, probably because of that. But I don't know. I think he would genuinely enjoy a lot of the community MvM maps and missions that have been made, just for the variety and wackiness and maps, everything basically. The interactions with other people, the crazy shit that's going on, whether that's glitches, broken stuff, or just bots being confused about what's going on. I wish he would try more of that, to be honest. So yeah, not the worst. Still some bad opinions by him and others, and that's about it, I guess. And that took way too long again. How long was that again? Like an hour or something? Oh god. I never would have thought I would ramble about this so much. It's kind of crazy.